Today I want to talk to you about something that can be a little stressful for beginning dungeon masters, but it makes a big difference when you're running your campaign. I call it the illusion of choice. Basically, the idea of a D&D game, and one of the things that makes it fun and interesting and very different from your traditional video game RPG or a board game or something else, is that the players are largely in control of the story. If people don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is, I describe it generally as it's a choose-your-own-adventure novel where you make the story up together as you go along. Something along those lines where if a player wants to do something completely crazy, a lot of times as a dungeon master, you want to be able to help them do it. But it can be very stressful and overwhelming for beginning dungeon masters to try to plan ahead for something like that, because your players are super weird and super unpredictable, and no matter how crazy you've gamed your adventure and how well you've planned it, they're always going to do something that surprises and confuses you and throws you off your game. And there's a few tricks that you can have in your arsenal that will help you be prepared for scenarios like that. I like to say, on the small scale, this happens a lot in combat. If a character wants to do something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, they don't just want to run up and attack the thing in the leg with a sword, they want to try to climb up the giant monster and attack it. A lot of times, you can just let them do that sort of thing, right? You make a acrobatics check or make a climb check, make a CMB, you go up there, you got it, okay, cool, that gives you a +1 to make your attack. Oh, you didn't get it? All right, well, now you're at a -2 to make your attack, and you didn't get it. You didn't climb up it, you're just whacking at his legs. Or you got a really bad roll, you fell down, you're on the ground now. You got a really awesome roll, you're going to get like extra damage when you make the hit. You can kind of game like +1, -1 here and there. They make a successful skill check. And then you skin it differently, right? You flavor the game differently. Like, oh, well, this guy's hanging on his back now and they're running around. And, the main point is that everybody's having fun and they're having a good time. And the characters are doing what they feel like they can do. And everybody likes to roll dice and try to come up with cool ideas. And it allows you to give your players a little bit more leeway and fun to think outside the box with what they want to do. If a guy wants to shoot the monster right in the eye, it's like, okay, well, it's going to be really difficult to hit. If you get a natural 20, when we do the critical damage and stuff, maybe that guy will be a little bit blinded on this next round or whatever. He'll get a -1 to hit for the rest of the battle. There's little things you can do like that. And, it's not really the way the rules are written for the game, but they're fun little tweaks that you can do in combat that will have the players thinking less about like, oh, well, I have a plus to this and a minus to this, and so my guy has to run up and whack this thing with a sword, and then it just becomes moving pieces around. It becomes a board game. You want to have things happening where it's more of an adventure that people are in control of, and it's more like, Legolas sliding down at Helm's Deep on a shield, shooting bow and arrow is not a good strategy in Dungeons and Dragons. However, you want to do everything you can to encourage your players to try to do silly things like that, because it's going to be more fun for them and they're going to remember it. And there's other things you can do here that are in a wider scale kind of deal, right? If we're panning back from combat, where I always like to say one of the last things you want to say to your players is no. It doesn't matter how crazy the thing is that they want to do. If you get the good rolls, you can do it, right? That's the whole beauty of this game, is that you can do whatever you want. So give it a try. You probably don't have the skills to do it. You probably don't have the rolls to do it, whatever. If you do, great, you can do it. So you never really want to say no. You want to discourage people from doing things that are going to be silly and get the whole party killed. And there's times that you have to say no, right? If they're trying to do something completely bonkers, you have to say no sometimes. But always try to find an alternative to doing that. One thing that, if you're pulling back from combat, there's different dungeons, right? If you're looking at a dungeon map, there's some interesting things you can do there to give players, like what I said, the illusion of choice. Make them think that they have a lot of options when they don't have that many options, right? A good example of this is basically, like, if they're in a dungeon or a campaign or something is going on and they're kind of going through this linear series of things, but you want to make it feel like it's bigger than that. What I like to do is basically I just have, these are the battles they're going to fight in the order they're going to fight them. They're going to run into this trap, they're going to run into this trap, they're going to run into this obstacle, they're going to have to climb this wall, they're going to have to fight the guys on the top of the wall, right? I don't have 37 hours to commit to writing this giant mega thing that with all of these variables and all of this other stuff happening and then wasting my time spending 2 hours writing a bunch of stuff that the party's never going to see. I know what they're going to see. They're going to see these 5 things, but how they get to those things is a little bit different, right? What you can do in a good example, very basic example of this is they walk into this room and they fight this wizard and they kill him, and there's 5 doors. And they all lead to different places, but as soon as you open one, you pass through into that room, and the door seals magically behind you. It feels seamlessly with the wall, and you can't reopen it. All right, those 5 doors all go to the same place. It doesn't matter, right? The party's not going to know, and if they find up some other, that's it. That's what they're going to do. They're going to go through one of these doors, and they're going to end up in this room that I said they were going to end up in. And you can do little minor things, right? One door has a picture of a mountain on it. One door has a picture of a river on it. One door has a picture of I don't know, a tree, right? So if they go through the mountain door, they got to jump over a gap or climb a wall. If they go through the water one, they're going to have to go over a river. Basic things that take you 2 seconds to sketch out in your book. That can cause the party problems sometimes. I had an entire party of 11th level warriors or 11th level player characters that almost died trying to cross a river one time. So you never know what kind of stuff's going to trip people up. Maybe 1 or 2 little things different. Maybe the monsters are a little bit different. These goblins have fire swords instead of electrical swords or whatever. You just you're going down your list and they're doing the things that are happening in the order that you want them to happen. But they feel like they're going to think about it, I wonder if we went through the right door. I wonder if we went through the wrong door. You can say back to them later, oh no, there was treasure in that other door. You just didn't open it. There's no treasure in the doors. It's fine. It's cool. Nobody knows. Nobody really cares. They just want to feel like they have a lot of options. I did this in the Mummy Tomb adventure from last week, where there's you're going through the dungeon and there's a chasm, and it is a gap, right, there's a platform and it ends and the other platform's here, and you're looking at maybe a 10-foot gap across, right? I don't know how the party's going to get over this, right? That's the other thing, because the party is very surprising, and they will do a lot of weird things, and they will do a lot of stuff that you're not going to be ready to account for. They're going to have spells you don't know about. They're going to have gear that you forgot you gave them. I don't know how a party's going to get across this 10-foot gap. It's up to them to figure it out. They'll figure it out or they won't. They have an exit. There's a ladder. If they search around, there's a ladder that goes down. The chasm is so the platform's up here, and then it drops down to maybe 40 feet to a pit of spikes. So if you don't make the jump, you're going to fall and you're going to land on this pit of spikes. You can give people a lot of help with that, right? Oh, you missed, and this guy's got to make an attack roll to grab you before you fall to your death, and then you've got one guy laying there hanging off, holding onto the other guy because he's made his successful touch attack against the other guy's, flat-footed AC or whatever, and now they're hanging, and now you've got to roll some strength rolls to pull everybody up. It becomes very dramatic and tense, but nobody's really at risk of plummeting to their death onto a pit of spikes. However, you can also climb down the ladder, and you can go through the pit of spikes, but there's a monster that's down there, right? There's a scorpion that's down there that's and you're fighting this thing inside the pit of spikes, so it makes it for a really cool looking battlefield where you've got the spikes everywhere, the monster's coming in, your party's trying to maneuver around to get to him. So pretty cool stuff, but they have the choice, right? Do you want to climb down a ladder, or do you want to jump across the gap? Doesn't really matter. Get to the end, it's the same thing, but the party feels like they had a choice. They could decide what happens. If you want to pull that back even farther to the larger campaign area, you always run into a scenario, especially with newer players, which makes it hard because newer players are generally playing with a newer DM, where the party wants to kind of test their limits. Right, they want to see what they can get away with. They want to push this game as far as they can. Right, it's the equivalent of when you run around the edges of the map in a video game and you're trying to find a place where you can clip through the walls and fall through the map, kind of thing. Your party is going to want to kind of test to see what they can get away with, and you want to be ready for them to you want to be ready for them. You don't want to be oh well, there's a wall there you can't go through, or there's an impenetrable mountain range you can't go through that. You give them the options. Oh, there's this is the coast, this is the mountain range, this is this. Here's my campaign that I wrote. Here's the big flashing light of what you need to go do next. The dying man gave you a note, and the note said that you have to go to this town and ask this person this one thing, because you're just trying to drive them on rails through this adventure. And the party's there's always going to be a guy who's oh, well, I don't want to do that. I want to go to this other town over here, or I want to go see what's in the forest over here. Now, you haven't mapped this out. You're not ready for this. You haven't been preparing for what's out there. You wrote, like, you drew like a bunch of squigglies on a map, and you're like, all right, there's a forest down here. It's the dark forest. Okay, done. I'm finished with that. But you don't want to tell the party no, because they're testing you, right? You want to call their bluff in this scenario, and there's a few tricks you can do to make that happen. Number one is to just have one or two encounters ready in your pocket, right? I like to do this with things that can be reskinned a lot, right? Skeletons, mummies, zombies, that kind of stuff can live anywhere. Anywhere you go, if you're at the bottom of the ocean, you can run into skeletons and zombies. If you're in like a mountain on the side of a mountain, you can run into skeletons and zombies. Have an encounter ready like that. Have an encounter ready with like some kind of, maybe like not a dragon, but like some kind of small dragony kind of deal that breathes a breath weapon. And that breath weapon, you can skin that to, if it's in the desert, it's probably a blue dragon, so it'll shoot like an electric. And if it's in the mountains, it'll be a red dragon, so it'll shoot a little bit of fire. It does the same damage, it's just immune to whatever it breathes, and it breathes whatever's appropriate to that region. So they want to go out into the dark forest. They go out into the dark forest. There's mummies, and there's green dragons that shoot acid breath. Okay. You want to keep going in the dark forest, see what's going on in there? Probably not, but if they push on, you've got these two battles to kind of be planning a little bit, thinking a little bit about what's going to happen. Maybe you can draw I've definitely done it before, where it's like, oh, well, this encounter happens, and then it just draws, just killing the last 45 minutes of our D&D session, so that I can go back and write what they find out next, right? It's a little trickier if you're going to do an all-day thing, but if you're doing like a weekly session or an hour session or something like that, you can easily kind of just stall with an encounter that's dangerous, and kind of give yourself a little bit of leeway to write the next part for the next time. And so that's like a nice trick that you can have. You have like one little, you don't even need to have a town ready, but have like 2 NPCs, or have an encounter in the wilderness that they can run into pretty much anywhere, right? There's a guy and he's being attacked by goblins, and you have to rescue him. Or it's it's just something along those lines, where you have one little encounter, basically the equivalent of like a video game side quest kind of deal. One of these little silly things. Oh, I lost my goat. Will you go get it out of this cave for me? Oh, the cave is full of, giant spiders. You got to fight them. Okay, have one of those little encounters ready, have a little battle ready, and then you can kind of throw those out at people when they go the other direction. For the most part, if you're like, hey, here's the cool quest, and there's a bunch of treasure at the end of it, and like, here's what I've been preparing, and they say, I want to go off into the mountains, the most important thing in this scenario is that you're prepared enough that you can be, as the dungeon master, you can be like, oh yeah, cool. All right, you want to go off into the mountains? It's about a 3-day journey, so you're gonna have to have enough food to get out there. But if you want to go, we can do that. And you start shuffling through your papers like you're going to that part of your campaign. They'll bail, or they'll be interested and want to see what you have. But like either way, they've tried to trip you up, and you have successfully overcome it. And you're prepared for anything, because these maps, these little campaign things that you have are ready for anything, right? You can hang on to those two, and you can hang on to them the entire time that you are running your campaign. If they never run into this stuff, it will have been worth the 5 to 10 minutes it took for you to like copy paste the stat blocks of 10 skeletons onto a sheet of paper and have that be ready for them. So anyway, I don't know if that's helpful. I hope it is. But like I said, one of the most important things for running a D&D campaign is to make sure that your players believe that they can do anything that they want. And make sure you have some tricks ready to be prepared for them to attempt anything that they want. It's all an illusion. You are in control of the scenario the entire time. You know what they're going to run into. You know what's in each of these directions. If they go up to the mountains, there's skeletons and a dude looking for his lost goat. If they go into the coast, there's skeletons and a dude looking for his lost goat. If they go to the dark forest, there's skeletons and a dude looking for his lost goat. You're ready. You're prepared. They think they're making their decisions. They think they're in control of the story, but you are always in control of the story. So never forget that. Okay. I think that's it for today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on Friday.